Good evening and welcome to a holiday edition of the Buddy Martin Show. I am Buddy Martin. Program starts in just a moment with Franz Beard, and we'll check on the latest news. You might be shocked at what's going on in the world of postseason now with the number of defections. It's a different game than what we were sold. Things are changing, not for the better. Well, you hear all the news. We'll give you that. Hope you had a good holiday. Excuse me. We're in our undisclosed location on assignment tonight again. Invite you to join us and share your thoughts. We're catching up with the news of the day and the moment, and it just seems like there's a lot to catch up on. So we will do this. We will go ahead and start the open and ask you to join us on the other side.
Again for Buddy Martin. Call him up and tell him what you're thinking. But be kind because he's doing the best he can.
Better, stronger, faster.
Mama says that alligators are ornery because they got all them teeth but no toothbrush.
Hey, what if the voice calls while you're gone?
Take a message.
Bye!
You ready, champ?
I'm ready for this my whole life.
I'm incapable of small talk. But that's why you love me, right?
Kind of intimidating to be in the presence of so many great athletes.
Holidays going on. Hope you're doing well. And we are scratching around here trying to catch up with our notes of the weekend. Holiday, hope your Christmas went well for you. It was a quiet one here for us this past couple of days. But great to see family and friends and participate in the usual festivities of the holiday. Tonight we'll have our crew on. We don't normally have David Whitley, but tonight David is not with us. We'll be joined by Franz Beard as soon as he gets the link. Let's see if Franz emailed to you the link. It's the same as always. Franz Beard will join us. Then we'll catch up with our intern student star, Kyle Curtis, will be joining us momentarily, and we will we'll catch up with what he's hearing. And then, of course, it'll be time to catch up with Coach Loren Meadows as we do every Tuesday night. I don't think you're going to have any trivia or not. But I tell you what, I am shocked, and I'm sure my colleague Franz Beard, who joins us on the program now, is a bit surprised to think that the Orange Bowl, the once great Orange Bowl, where we have seen many great games, including Florida and Steve Spurrier beating Georgia Tech, including national championship games. Tonight, the news, Franz Beard, good evening to you, is that there are 19 Seminoles opting out of the Orange Bowl. Can you believe that?
Yeah, I can. And you combine the portal with the opt-outs for the who say they're going to be in the NFL draft, and this is what you wind up with. And you know, college football has issues, and they're their own doing, buddy. All of this has to do with the way they do college football, the playoff, and everything like that. They made it so the way they made the playoff to begin with rendered all the bowl games insignificant. If you're not playing for the championship, then you got guys there who say, "What have I got to prove?" I'm going to go into the NFL draft. I personally, I don't like it. Personally, I think that it's as Jerry Kill, who said, and one of the reasons he is retiring after taking New Mexico State to its greatest season ever is because of all the guys that opted out. And as he said, they're cowards who don't play for their team. these guys would say, well, I'm afraid I'll get hurt. Well, you could have gotten hurt in the regular season too. And then you got the fact that the school is the one that gave you your platform to have this opportunity, and then you're turning your back on all the guys that helped you. And I don't believe in it. I don't get along with it. But college football, the NCAA, in its infinite wisdom, is the one that made all this happen the way it is. And I'm sorry, but it's just not any good. The NFL could probably help put an end to this by saying, hey, you got a contract that's called a scholarship, and if you don't honor your contract, we're going to do something ourselves. But they won't do it.
Yeah, for the person who said, hey, buddy, there's a woman behind you. Yes, she is. She's cleaning up the kitchen. We had dinner. That's my fiance, Dawn, who will be married to me on the 20th of January, and I announced it the last couple of days. And the church, Christian Center Church, her son, Ty, is the pastor. We're very happy about that, and we've been spending Christmas holidays with her family. And France, I hope you'll be there up in Mariana when we get married on the 20th of January. So that's just wave hi, Dawn. Just say, see you back there. She's back there working. All right. So,
I wave too.
Franz wave too. Yeah. So, I think I feel like, in a way, I don't want to say I'm partially responsible for this, but I was so excited to finally have a playoff, friends. We've talked about this for years, like getting to a true playoff, finally. Mm-hmm. And I thought we had it made, and I thought we had one, and I was excited about it. Took them long enough to get it and get it right. We hoped it was right, but I'm not seeing a whole lot right about it right now. And I wonder, have I been duped? Have I passed that along to other people? Because nobody's in charge, and we're not getting what we wanted here, which is a fair, equitable system for everybody. Certainly not to destroy the bowl games like the Orange Bowls. This whole thing is totally out of whack.
Well, it is. But here's what's happened. And here's one of the reasons it's totally out of whack. We got too many bowl games, for one thing. When you got 6-6 teams being rewarded for a mediocre season by getting a bowl game, that's not right. You should not be. I remember, I was writing about, my day I knew I was a Gator. I wrote about that for.
So that's a good column about the day you went out to sell Cokes and wound up selling everything, didn't you?
Yeah, that was Spurrier's freshman year, and I ended up. Sarge Squires had me with. I had Cokes trays, I had hot dogs, I had ice cream, and it was chilly that night. And he ended up in the fourth quarter having me sell coffee too. So Sarge, Sarge knew me and could depend on me. But Spurrier's sophomore year, the Hurricane Carla game, which you were the sort of the traffic cop for everybody that got caught out in Louisiana and had to bail out and get home somehow. It got postponed back to December 6th. Cold night. Florida wins that game. The Gators went 7-3 that year. Their 3 losses by a combined 19 points. Every team they lost to, a ranked team. And yet, they didn't get to go to a bowl game. There was a time when a bowl game was a reward. And
big time.
Everybody goes to bowl games now. That's what has taken.
You're right.
One of the reasons why guys now are saying, these are meaningless. I mean, 6-6 teams go to bowl games, so why?
Well, 5-7. There's a team on today. 5-7 that went. I think it was Bowling Green.
No, Bowling Green had a 7-5 record.
No, their team that played that Minnesota had 5-7.
Yeah, Minnesota 5-7.
Yeah,
got rewarded for being. They needed one more team for a bowl game, and because they had the highest academic record, they got to go to a bowl game, and then they won. So they finished 6-7 instead of 5-7.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, buddy: is all these bowl games, and ESPN has lined them all up, and you've got, the Frito, the chili on Fritos bowl and stuff like that, and the fart in an elevator bowl, and you name it, there's a bowl for it. And here's what's happened is it has made all these insignificant games, it's a trickle up, and now the other bowl games are not significant. We people are saying, well, when we only had 2 teams, we didn't have the opt-outs. Trust me, it would have happened even with a 2-team playoff like we used to have, not a playoff, but a championship game, simply because we've added so many bowl games. People don't feel a bowl is a reward anymore.
True. Well, anyways, I feel complicit in this whole thing. I just didn't see it unfolding. I never thought college football could be a headless horseman and nobody was in charge. And this is what it's become. So it's a sad day.
You got the NCAA, buddy.
Well, you don't got the NCAA. You ain't got nobody. That's the problem. You ain't got them.
That's the thing is you got the NCAA, which means nobody, but nobody's in charge. And they've got this idiot now named Charlie Baker in there. And I'm almost of the conclusion that I didn't think we could do worse than Mark Emmert. I'm almost of the conclusion that we have proven me wrong, that we could, and we have. What was the great line from Pogo from the 1950s?
We have met the enemy and it is us. Is that it?
We have met the enemy and they is us.
Yeah.
Yeah. You got to admit, buddy, nobody is in charge here. It's like, you want to know what anarchy is like? This is it. This is anarchy in college sports. Think about this, buddy. What they're saying, that what Charlie Baker's new proposal is this, that everybody will get $30,000 on scholarships. You know what's going to happen is people are going to, the rich schools who've got big endowments, like, or $100 million a year coming in, like Florida will have from the SEC in 2 years because of the ESPN contract, they're going to be able to afford it. But these people like the Mid-American Conference, they're not going to be able to afford $30,000 a year. These people operate, each school is getting about $600,000, $700,000. That's their TV media deal.
Well, what will happen is what I said would happen. The major leagues and the minor leagues. So it's going to happen. It's going to be about 60, maybe 60 teams that could compete at the high level. The rest of them might as well go back to what we used to call Division II.
I don't think that's what what I've always thought, buddy, is we need 96 teams, 12 team conferences. You have a playoff game. You have your conference championship game with 12 teams. That's your first round of the playoffs. Then you have 8 teams that survive. You have 8 teams that survive. That would be ideal.
We've had this discussion quite a bit in the last few years. And by the way, this being the holidays, and by the way, Merry Christmas to everybody. We're not going to try to spin it too negative tonight. We don't want to go there. But the fact is that who's supporting this? Television. Has anybody ever thought about the old legend of the golden goose? What happens? What if TV starts losing money? What if they stop making money on games? What happens to all those big purses, those conferences? It could happen. It could happen, and it's going to be a different situation. They do not have an endless supply of money.
No, they don't. And guess what? Brock Bowers and Amarius Mims aren't going to play in that bowl game either.
No. Yeah. I get it. It's not the prudent thing to do if you're an agent to have your player play in a bowl game. I hate it. Yeah. I hate what's happened to college football. So let's do this. Let's take a quick break, Francis. When we come back, I want you to catch us up on some of the things that have happened. Didn't get a new special teams coach yet, but apparently getting a couple other people have nothing to do with what happens on the field. Some changes there. Another dropout, another person transferring out again. This is very unusual to have players. And the Trevor Etienne transfer, how did that come out? I mean, how did it make you feel? Because we knew it was coming. We waited for it to drop. But when it dropped, it hurt. And I'll tell you why. You'd be surprised. We're not used to losing guys like Trevor Etienne, especially not to schools like Georgia. Stand by. We'll hear from our good friend. By the way, Jeffrey Melton wants to remind you, January 6th is his Melton Law Day for the Kentucky game. Sold out. You better go see if you can go and take it from him. Jeffrey, look forward to a great 2024 and being together with you and your wife to celebrate some special occasions.
Yeah, and buddy, I want to tell our Gator fans out there that Todd Golden is the real deal. Okay. In 1 year, he's put together this really tall team that's going to out-rebound just about everybody that they play. They've got some great shooters. We got 3 or 4, guards in there that are awesome.
Yep.
And I predict that the Gators are going to be a ranked team by the end of the season, and that you wait and see. They're going to make some noise around March Madness.
Sounds exciting. You'll be right there to report from courtside. Give us the inside scoop, Jeffrey.
Yeah, and January 6th is Meldon Law Day. We're playing Kentucky at the O-Dome. It's Meldon Law Day. We've got special shirts for everybody.
Giving stuff away again like you do all over the place. You're giving stuff away.
But it's going to be it's Kentucky, buddy. What do you got to say?
What are you going to do? Be a big night.
The home game against Kentucky is always the big game of the year.
Maybe I'll come sit with you tonight. So,
okay, January 6th, buddy.
All right, Jeffrey, have a happy holiday season. The best to you. And don't forget, Meldon Law, they do not back down. And they wish you a happy holiday season.
Yeah, happy holidays to everybody.
All right, thank you, Jeffrey. By the way, speaking of basketball, I haven't talked to you, I don't think, since the big win over Michigan. Have I, Franz?
Yeah, that win over Michigan was really, really talking about a character builder. That one was a character builder because, you got to. One of the things I think that's been missing in the last few years is it's in football too. We've had so many close but no cigar games. You know what I'm saying? Football, we look back at football over the last 2 years, even back to the Dan Mullins last year. We've had 3 years consecutively in which the Florida Gators have been 1 play or 2 plays away from a win, and then they lose. We've had the same thing happen in basketball. And now we look at what they've done. They're proving they can play in big games, and they're not intimidated by anybody. East Carolina was a grinded out game. They won it. Close ball game. They won it. They come back with Michigan, another grinded out ball game in which Michigan, it seemed, couldn't miss a 3-point shot, and the Gators, it seemed, couldn't make one. And all of a sudden, the Gators come out and they win it. And you got to be impressed with a team that, when they're really hitting everything, can play at such a high level. And when they're not, they can still have the wherewithal to just grind and grind and grind and stay there till the end when good things happen.
All right, friends, we're going to bring our colleague in here and talk to him about this subject. But today, we learned, and I don't think it's been officially announced, everything, but apparently the Gators got a new nutritionist, not a defensive line coach, and not a special teams coach, a nutritionist. All right. Apparently that this guy's from I got his name down someplace. Washington Commanders. All right, Jake Sankel. With the nutrition programs. I have no idea what to say about that, Franz. Do you?
No, I don't. I don't. Having a new nutritionist, that's a great thing. Getting a new strength coach, that's another great thing.
Mm-hmm.
Who the hell is going to be the final, we got Gerald Chapman to come in. He's going to take one spot. but they still got an opening on the staff. Is it going to
Yeah.
be a strength and
Right.
condition? I mean, is it going to be a special teams guy?
Yeah, we do have Chapman. I forgot. Yeah, he has been replacement.
Is it going to be a special teams guy?
Linebacker coach we need, right?
Well, Austin Armstrong, you got to remember, that's what he was going to coach at Alabama when he took the Florida defensive coordinator job. So you've got an opening for a defensive coordinator to actually coach the inside linebackers. So that leaves a spot for either a special teams guy, or there's a juicy rumor that Willie Korn, who is the offensive coordinator there at Liberty, is going to come, and he's going to call plays and coach the quarterbacks next year, and Billy's going to be a CEO. That's a rumor that seems to have some legs. Now, we'll see how it all works out. We've heard a lot of stuff, and I think this is what's part of what frustrates Florida fans so much is there is no transparency at all. There are,
right.
You got a coach that comes out there and does 8 minutes after a ball game.
And says nothing.
After a win. He does 8 minutes. You got a coach that signing day, we got, I think, 18 minutes out of him, which I think is pretty darn good for Billy. It might have been 20 even. But we need, Dan Mullen, to his credit, 30-minute press conferences after ball games. He gave you a lot of stuff. And I know they don't think they need the media, but by golly, you do need
They need the story narrative to get out to the public. They're not talking to the public. That's the thing. That's what's hurt them. For a lot of people I've heard from.
Players.
Yeah.
People tell me that every day, every single day. I can't pull for the Gators. I don't even know who's playing anymore.
Right.
Well, that's because they don't give us a chance to interview.
To know them, right. By the way, a couple of news things. We'll bring Kyle in here in just a second. Chris McClellan now has gone to Missouri. He's the fourth. Yeah, that's another one that we knew was in the portal. It's the fourth Gators postseason transfer to stick to the SEC. So not only leaving, they're going to teams in the SEC. And the one I want to talk about tonight with you and Kyle is, even though we knew it was coming, we knew Trevor Etienne was going to be dropping here soon, and we even knew it would be Georgia. It was something that felt almost like a betrayal when he announced on Christmas Eve that he was going. And I guess here's the reason. I read this stat today. Of the 86 previous transfers they've had, only Jeremy Mincy went to Georgia, Tennessee, or FSU. They start going to your bitter rivals like that, it begins to sting. It leaves a mark. Let's go get our buddy in here and talk to him about it. Right, Kyle?
It hurts. It hurts, guys. Especially with feet on ground over in Gainesville. I can tell that the student population has been super upset, felt betrayed. And honestly, I think it gives you that much more motivation to look forward to Georgia next year.
Yeah, it's not going well, Franz. And of course, when he comes back here in the Georgia game and scores 4 touchdowns, it's really not going to look good on Billy's resume. He may not be the coach by then.
Here's the thing that's interesting. Nobody's taking into account the reason he's at Georgia is basically one basic thing. He wanted more money. And whether that's because there wasn't any more money or they said, we're just not going to give you any more. We've already given you a lot. Who knows? But Georgia wrote the check and he's there.
Yeah.
And going to Georgia just doesn't make sense for me. If he'd gone to LSU, that would have made sense because LSU's losing both their backs, and he would be their stud back. Edwards and Milton aren't going anywhere. They're coming back next year along with Carson Beck. That offense is going to be really, really good. And one thing that Edwards and Carson Beck, one thing that Edwards and Kendall Milton could do that Trevor Etienne can't do, guess what that is, Kyle?
But
Pass block.
You bingo. Yeah. I mean,
they put Montreal Johnson or Trayon Webb in there this year whenever they needed a good pass block. Etienne, it was always a run.
Well, here's the thing too. Trevor Etienne is a great threat to go the distance anytime. I mean, he's got shifting. He can do all sorts of stuff. He can't help you in the passing game. He just can't. He's not a good receiver. He's had a couple catches that he's done well with, but you look at the number of times he's been targeted that he didn't make the catch, and that's not really good. Trayon Webb can catch the ball, and he's really good. The kid that they signed from Mississippi, he's got the zip, the zam, and the zowie. And Jaden Ball, they love Jaden Ball. I've talked to some people up in Georgia who say Florida may have had the steal of signing day getting that guy. Said, there's a reason why Nick Saban wanted him, why Kirby Smart wanted him. There's a reason why Lane Kiffin wanted him. And he had an offer from everybody. And part of the reason he wasn't considered a 5-star guy, so I've been told, is because he was the guy that played quarterback, played tailback, played linebacker, played safety, played wide receiver. He played 5 different positions this year for his team and was all over the place. And he's kind of one of these guys where you just wonder, okay, what could he have done if he had, just run the ball, for example, like Kanan Daniels can?
Yeah. Kyle, speak to the issue again as a student at Florida about the resentment toward players who've been one of the featured players on the team for several years, bolting and then going to a bitter rival. You alluded to the fact that students are not happy. You've been there a while now. Is there some disillusionment with the student body about this team?
Well, I mean, you mentioned Gerald Mincy earlier. I mean, I think that was either my freshman or sophomore year. He transferred over to Tennessee, and obviously not as a prominent guy as Etienne, offensive guard, but nonetheless, one of those top tier rivals for Florida. I think that as a student, you're looking at someone who's you're walking through the halls with every day. You're seeing the Florida Gator. You're seeing the Ben Hill Griffin Stadium every day. You're seeing the statues. I don't know. Being a part of that culture, it's hard to completely shift gears, and especially being a part of the Florida Georgia game within itself, it's really hard to shift gears and then be tweeting out #GoDogs the next day. So for me as a student, and I think for what I've been able to see from the rest of the student population is more of we're not necessarily, I don't think, missing what he did on the field as much as how much he did. It's more so the fact that you could do that to not only the current Florida players on the team, but I mean it brought up a lot of noise from past alumni too on Twitter. I mean, I saw a bunch of alumni tweeting at him saying I can't believe that you do this, stuff like that. But I mean, in the long scheme of things, as Franz was saying, with Trayon Webb, I think is going to be phenomenal. As much as Etienne leaving, I don't think it's going to hurt as much as most people are thinking. Cameron Carroll, a lot of people forgot about him coming back from Tulane, ACL last year. I see him, taking a bigger step this year, and Montreal Johnson hasn't even announced what he's doing next year. So there's a chance that we get one more year of Montreal Johnson in the swamp. So as much as it stings, I think that it hurts more as a student, culture-wise, rather than on the field.
Yeah, for sure.
Good points. Very good points, Kyle. You're right that Etienne, it's a loss and it hurts, yes. is it an irreplaceable loss? I would say, okay, losing Graham Mertz would be almost irreplaceable. And people say, well, Lagway's 5 stars, but how many freshman quarterbacks make it in the SEC? Not too many. You lose a guy like that. Now all of a sudden you're talking about something. Montrell will be back. I've been told that by numerous people that he would have announced by now if he was going to. He is going to be back. Talking about a guy with 2,597 career yards rushing the football, 27 touchdowns, because you got to count those carries he got at Louisiana too. He's got a chance this coming year, I think, to have 1,000-yard season if they can get any kind of blocking. But of course,
he's capable. He's capable of getting the 20 to 25 carries. I mean, he showed it this year, just going off the hot hand. I mean, he's capable of being that lead guy. So
he needed more touches. He'll get them,
and he can block.
Yeah. And he's pretty good. He's a pretty good pass receiver as well.
Yeah, he has. That's the thing about him. And Trayon Webb is cut out the same cloth. Cameron Carroll, another a good blocker. This is one of the reasons they signed him was because he's such a good guy at picking up blitzes. But he's a guy that can get that chip block and then still get out into the pattern, and which is something Etienne couldn't do. Etienne couldn't get that chip. And that's the thing is people think, okay, how many running backs actually stop that linebacker? You don't have to stop him most of the time. Just get in his way, give your quarterback an extra second, then get out on the wheel route. LaMichael Pirine was tremendous at that, buddy. You remember him.
Yeah, he was. Let me just ask a question. I've had this dialogue with several of my friends. I talked to a guy today who knows 2 of the heaviest of heavy hitters among the people that Florida have for contributors. They're the big money guys, and he's friends with both of them. He told me, absolutely, this is it, and it better happen fast for Billy to survive the year. They want to see some immediate results on the field. I'm sure they'll be glad to know they've hired a new nutritionist. That makes them feel better. But let's get back to the issue of, I hate to keep pounding on Billy, but I was talking to a good close friend of mine who's a big Gator fan the other day, and he says, why didn't Billy come out after signing day and say, instead of him hawing around and almost apologizing, say, well, you can look this up, but I believe this is the first time we've ever signed 2 5-stars in one class. Make a big deal out of getting 2 of the top 6 players in the country, and build on that instead of sort of flinching and worrying about who he's going to lose. He needed to have a strong point to sell. He didn't look like a man who was proud of his product selling it on to me. Am I wrong, Kyle? Did you see the press conference?
Yeah, I saw the press conference, and I think that, as much as National Signing Day was a roller coaster, it wasn't a complete dumpster fire, but I think that there still was a little fire that you had to put out, right? 2-3 months before signing day, you have the number 3, number 4, recruiting class in the country. And going back in history, over the past 10 years, that usually leads to, success down the road. Bouncing back to 15 and, losing Xavier Filsaime to Texas, it might have been, he might have been backtracking and stuff like that. But going back to what you were saying about, talking to good friends and that Napier needs to get it done right away. We're in year 3 now, and it's not with the modern era of the transfer portal and everything like that, you're not going to get the time you need. You're seeing what Lane Kiffin's doing over there at Ole Miss. Literally transforming his whole defensive front 7. And, he's got probably Ole Miss as a preseason top 10 next year after a mediocre year in the SEC. So as much as I think National Signing Day was a win, I think that it could have been a lot better, and there were still fires to be put out on National Signing Day.
Yeah, and friends, let's be honest, we weren't sure. It seemed like along about 2 o'clock, 2:30, there was some doubt casted where he would get that way and get his 2 prize picks. There was a stutter step there, wasn't there, friends?
Same
Well,
would be correct.
it seemed that way.
But you knew it different, I know.
Well, the fax was in at 4 o'clock. Now, and there was still a couple hours of anxiety on the fact of on Gator Nation. I mean, I knew the fax was in at 4. It should have been in at 10. It really should have been in at 10. Why it wasn't, some would speculate that, okay, it had to do with money and whatever like that. Wouldn't doubt it if Florida took some of the money that may have gone to one of these other four. You lost a couple of 4-star guys, and you know that they were promised money, okay? So maybe it took, maybe Florida said, hang on, when these guys decommit, it's official, we'll get you some more money. That might have been the case. I don't know so much that he wavered as much as Florida wanted to really get him some extra money. And let's face it, by waiting that late, it kept Florida in the news longer, okay? And it made Florida, some people say it makes Florida look weak. Some people will say it makes Florida look like they were capable of closing. I don't know which one it is, but it did keep Florida in the news cycle longer. But there is some speculation that they took the money from losing Williams and losing Harris. They took some of that money and spread it around. Some of that went to L.J. McCray, and maybe some of that to Mincy, who is, as I understand, Mincy. Somebody's told me that Mincy's fax LOI is in, and it's been in, but he's going to announce at the All-American game that he's a Gator. Let's hope that's the case, because that would be a real plus, and that would make up for, in a large way, for losing Harris and Williams. I think Harris wasn't going to play as much and saw the handwriting on the wall, because the two guys that they got, I'm telling you what, Graham and Childs are the real deal, and they're going to play as a freshman. Ardarius Harris was not going to play. He was going to have to, pick up some snaps here and there, but Childs and Graham are going to play, period, from day one. So I think, you're right, Kyle, that people look at this as a big loss, and it's all about the perception. They have a good class. They addressed their needs with this class, but they didn't win the perception battle.
Yeah. Okay, Kyle, with this, I'll let you say goodnight and get your milk and cookies. Got Coach Loren Meadows standing by in the wings there, and he'll join. I read a story today, and you guys can chime in after Kyle leaves, about the top 75 players in the portal, and looked at them. And I looked at it, and I saw, obviously, we know that Florida lost Emma Milan, but they gained one too. And when you look at the plus and minus, and he was a top 10 player in this list I read. So it reminded me of the phrase, the portal giveth and the portal taketh away. So if you come out someplace close to a wash, Kyle, in the portal, it's going to take a few wins to do that. They got to go get some more players from somewhere in their portal. Could Billy still pull this out?
Yeah, I definitely think Billy could still, figure it out, especially with, I think Lane Kiffin has changed the landscape of what the transfer portal actually means. And I think that he's actually shown this year, what you can do to transform a program. But, I think Billy's already done a decent job so far. He went out, he got Graham Mertz, the number one wide receiver at Wisconsin. He not replacing Ricky Pearsall, but at least, put in a placeholder Mertz is confident with, and he's able to go into, not have to build that much chemistry with during the offseason. And then you have Joey Slackman. I think that's another guy on the defensive.
And Slackman was a good pickup. That was a big pickup.
From Penn, Ivy League guy, smart guy, knows the game. I think he was the Ivy League Defensive Player of the Year.
Yeah, it was.
I would say. So, having that guy on the front seven, not saying that he's going to replace you, Man Mullen. I think that was one of our biggest losses, probably even bigger than Etienne impact-wise. But being able to replace him, get Slackman, and then, next year we're going to get back, Shamar James, a lot of those guys that help make up that front seven and make it taunting. But there's still room to be able to grab these guys, especially in the second half of the transfer portal process. I could be mistaken, but I don't think we got Graham Mertz until the second half of the transfer portal last year. So there's definitely a lot of room.
We got him after I think the Wisconsin bowl game. But
yeah.
And so, that's the thing. This week coming into this week, you're going to have, I think, 18 bowl games, something like that this week played. It's like I'm looking at the portal right now at guys transferring out who they're leaving. Here's one from Marshall, bowl game. Georgia Tech bowl game. Here's you get a lot of guys right now. One from
France. Hold off 1 second here because I'm gonna let Kyle say goodnight, and we're gonna bring Lauren in, and you can give me that information on the other side. We'll take a break and come back. Thanks a lot, Kyle. Have a good evening, Lauren. Merry Christmas. Good job. Appreciate it. Loren Meadows standing by. He'll be next year with us. First, I'll tell you about Titan MRI. Titan MRI is worth the short drive to Gainesville. No insurance is no problem. You can pay with cash or card with same-day scheduling available. How about that? Start feeling better today because Titan MRI is North Central Florida's premier independent MRI facility. Come see why hundreds of patients are visiting our Gainesville location from Ocala, Marion County, and the villages. That's TitanMRI.com. With that, we're bringing our friend Loren Coach Meadows into the house. What's up, Loren?
How you guys doing? Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you, my friend.
Merry Christmas. Hey, great green jammies.
Oh, appreciate that.
Yeah.
Looking good. I really did. I did love the jammies for the whole fam in the.
Tell you what, the style and all that stuff going on. Yeah, good.
Well, we had to thank my sister-in-law for that. So.
Yeah, good job, sister-in-law. All right, so Franz, go ahead with your stuff. You're talking about the changes, and Lauren wants you to come in and encapsulate the changes that you've heard about in the last 24 hours and what surprised you and what didn't. Franz, finish up with that stuff you were giving us.
Well, here's the thing: is you got a lot of bowl games that are being played this week, and I'm looking at what's happened in the portal in the last 24 hours, 48 hours, and you're seeing guys who played in bowl games over the weekend hitting the transfer portal. We can talk all we want to about how bowl games are insignificant, but if you're at a small school that doesn't get to go to bowl games and everything like this, and you do get to go one, you're not going to miss out on the stuff you get, because they get about $1,500 worth of gifts, I think, is what the limit is. Used to be like $300 back in Spurrier's day, and I think it's up to like $1,500 now that these guys get in gifts. So they get some pretty good gifts. But you're starting to see these guys who played in bowl games who are hitting the portal again. So there's going to be a second wave of players between now and January 4th that's going to hit the portal. I think you're going to see some more opt-outs too. Brock Bowers and Amarius Mims aren't going to play in the Orange Bowl. My gosh, we may wind up with a couple rosters that look like the old days in the 60s when teams traveled with 33 players.
19 players from FSU are not going to play, including their quarterback. So, all right, Lauren, catch us up what you've been hearing.
Yeah, I mean, like Franz said, just a lot going on with the bowl games and the transfer portal. Big news so far is Tate Rodemaker, who people thought would lead Florida State into the Orange Bowl, against Georgia. Is no longer going to be playing in the game. entering the transfer portal, and and then obviously Bowers and Mims opting out. I mean, it's just a lot going on, and like we talk about so many times, this is the new normal kind of as things are going on. I think we got the news since we've been on vacation a little bit that Florida was eyeing the Giants strength coach to possibly become the new strength coach and those kind of things. And
new like nutritionist coach.
The new nutrition, which, that's, okay. I mean, that's one of those things nowadays, but
that'll help with the defense.
Yeah. Yeah. There's bigger fish to fry for Florida than that. And the thing about it is I caution people to make sure that, as bad as recruiting may have seemed, I think like Franz said, Florida addressed some needs. The perception game, they kind of lost that. But at the same time, you don't win games in December. And for all the things that about DJ Lagway will not be Florida's quarterback in 2024 unless Graham Mertz gets hurt. So, after all the fanfare and the All-Star games and things like that, they're going to have to peel back the layers and kind of get back to the root of the issues that led to a 5-7 campaign. Sure, there were near misses, but there were some glaring issues that, regardless of personnel, are going to have to be addressed. And like Franz said, the one cool thing about it is you do have Austin Armstrong, who can now slide down to linebackers, and that does leave one more position. Preferably that would be somebody that could come in, call offensive plays, take the pressure off Billy Napier, and then allow maybe someone on the staff to then handle special teams. So you have an on-the-field special teams coordinator. I think that would be the perfect scenario, and that would help Billy Napier in the perception game going into the offseason prior to spring practice. But, who knows? I mean, right now it's just up in the air, but they're set up to at least keep both offensive line coaches, which I think Billy Napier is a fan of. And I think both those guys do a great job. But now you do have an open staff position to possibly bring in someone to call offensive plays and handle the offense on a day-to-day basis.
Loren, you said they do a great job. One of their weakest things they had going on the last half of the season was the offensive line.
Yeah, but
that's their guys.
We were raving about the offensive line a year ago. So
we thought they were going to be. We thought that Franz and I both thought they'd be good. We found out some of the transfers weren't that good. Right. Their evals were not very good.
We got to look at the personnel too, as opposed to the coaching. I think there's.
Well, they picked them. They chose them. Yeah, they picked them.
Yeah, well, they did. Yeah, but I think before we go and I would say before you go and let the offensive line take some time to kind of gel, things like that. If those guys can remain a unit, and then they could possibly grab one or two. I mean, they got the kid coming in from San Diego State. The young man's coming back from USC. Michael Tarquin's coming back. So I think, those additions can maybe help steady some things there, and you should see some improvement. I think both Sale and Stapleton are really good football coaches, and I think you could see some improvement there. And once again, if Florida stops someone, regardless of the offensive line, they probably win 9 football games. So,
Yeah. But here's the thing as well is, you look at this and you know that Damian George is going to move inside now. And all of a sudden, one of the problems they had this year, and he's a good kid. He really is. But Richie Leonard he's not an SEC. I think he could play center in the SEC. But I don't think he can play guard in the SEC. I think you need a monster there. All of a sudden now you can move Mazuka over to left guard. You can move Damian George in to right guard where he played at Alabama. He came here because he wanted to play tackle and I wonder why somebody didn't call Alabama to say, why specifically do you not think he can play tackle? Well, we found out. He can't slide step, and doesn't have quick enough hands to get his hands in somebody's chest. It's a different story when you get inside. That slide step and two quick hands out. Jim Nyblack once said, "You want me to show you playing right tackle in the NFL and left tackle? I said, sure. He said, stand up. I said, okay. He said, stick your arms out. I said, he stuck his hands into my chest. He says, my arms are this much longer than yours. And he says, if I can get my arms in your chest quicker than you can get your arms out, I win. I said, okay, what's next? He said, there is no next. He said, that's it.
Right.
And you know, Damian George has short arms and he's not quick with a slide step. You can have short arms and play left guard. You don't.
That's actually better for
right.
you.
Yeah,
it's better for you to have short arms. Yeah, absolutely.
You can't do that at right tackle. So, you know, the line's going to shuffle. Austin Barber, I think, is a good. I don't think he's a great left tackle. I think he's a good one. I think he might be a better right tackle. I think he could be a really, really good right tackle. Which, you know, Tarquin and the Crenshaw Dixon coming in from San Diego State, those are left tackle guys. Okay, maybe that's your answer, is shuffling the line a little bit, moving some people around. I thought Slaughter, after an absolutely horrendous game against Utah, I thought he really came around. I thought his last 4 or 5 ball games of the season, he may have been our most consistent offensive lineman. I think Jake really grew up this year, and it was a baptism by fire. But our tackle situation wasn't good this year, and it's going to have to improve.
Well, given what we're looking at with the schedule, I don't have it in front of me. How long will it be before the rich guys say, Billy, this is not good enough, you got to go? How much patience will they have? And can he last through the season? He's got to do more than win 6 games.
Most definitely. I mean, I think the biggest thing is next season, all eyes will be on the SEC. With Texas and Oklahoma coming in, I mean, everybody's going to be dialed in every week. And there's some high-profile must-win games for Billy Napier, starting with the first one. When the Canes come to town, if they drop that one to the Canes, I think it starts immediately. And then if they drop that one to the Canes, a few weeks later, when UCF rolls into town, it could be make it or break it. I mean, and the thing that we have to keep in mind is everybody wants to talk about offensive coordinator and offensive line, but you're looking at a historically bad defense. I mean, historically bad in a conference that has made its mark on defensive football. And I mean, it's just, I think that's going to be the key. I think offensively, Florida will be just fine. I think they've got a great football player in Graham Mertz. I think we all agree on that. But if they don't stop people, if they don't get teams off the field quickly, I mean, 3 and outs on a consistent basis with that schedule, and, you know, you talk about Ole Miss and some of those guys with Uman Mielen going there and Will Norman and those, I mean, it's going to be tough. And, I mean, he has got to get out the gate against Miami and then let the rest kind of work itself out. But it's going to be, I mean, it's going to be a long off season prior to what they roll out because, like Franz said, you don't get much time with Billy on the podium. He doesn't give you much, so you're left to your own imagination to see what's going on behind closed doors. And what they've shown when they crack those doors open just hasn't been good. So, I mean, I would say it could start week 1 if Miami comes in here and beats them, particularly by a touchdown or 2.
Franz, just before you start that, let me just ask this question, and you follow that up. If there's any, shall we say, silver lining in this schedule, is it's backloaded. It's not front-loaded. They could come out of there with a decent schedule after the first 6 or 7 games, and that would give Billy a little breathing room. But think about it. We did this once before. Miami is winnable. Sanford, they should win. Texas A&M is certainly winnable. Mississippi State, winnable. Open date. UCF is winnable. And you get Tennessee, a team they can't beat, although it's in Knoxville. And then they got Kentucky. So there are 5 or 6 games that are winnable in there for Florida. If they got lucky and got off to a good start, friends, would that give Billy some breathing room?
It will definitely give him some breathing room, buddy. I look at it like this. I know a lot of big money people are saying he's got to go. He's got to go. I've talked to some of the bigger money people who say that. I've also talked to some of the bigger money people who said just the opposite. Who said we cannot have a revolving door here. This is the 4th football coach since the 2010 season when Urban Meyer retired. 4. How many football coaches has Alabama had since 2007? 1. How many has Georgia had since 2001? 2.
How about Kentucky? Kentucky, look at them.
Kentucky, Mark Stoops will be in his 13th year this coming year. And people say, well, it's Kentucky. And I agree. It is Kentucky. Kentucky wins 7 games a year, and they think you're marvelous. And 7 games get you fired here. But you got to admit, for a school like Kentucky that's not a football school, that doesn't compare with the rabid fan base or facilities or the other stuff when it comes to football, or the recruiting base, as so many in the SEC have, that's an accomplishment. And we need accomplishment here in the worst way. How's that going to happen? You're going to have to win some ball games. And Loren is absolutely 100% correct. The offense is going to be fine. They are going to score enough points to win. They've scored enough points to win 9 ball games at least in each of the last 2 seasons. The problem is they hadn't stopped anybody for 2 years. This is why I look at what Lane's done at Ole Miss, and I'm saying this is going to be scary. Lane Kiffin has revamped his secondary. He's got the best linebacker in the portal in the SEC in Chris Paul. He's got a 5-star defensive lineman, and he's going to pick up at least one more stud defensive lineman in the portal. Ole Miss is going to be loaded. And here's what's scary. They're going to get they're going to get Evan Stewart. They already got Trey Harris. They've already got Juice Wells coming in, the best wide receiver in the portal coming in. And now all of a sudden you start putting Evan Stewart in there. And now all of a sudden you start saying, okay, we'll put Juice Wells in the slot. Let's see which linebacker or safety in the SEC can cover this guy. They're going to be scary good. They may be the best team in the SEC next year, bar none.
Okay, it's Christmas time. We're about to say goodnight. Give us a little something to warm to sleep on here the next couple of days. Leave me with a good thought of what could be good for all Gator fans in 2024. Loren, you go first.
It could be a good March for Florida basketball. So stay tuned. I think that, Florida basketball, the men's basketball team is kind of building on the right way. And then as far as football is concerned, I'm going to go out on a limb and say in the next couple weeks, a couple of Florida football fans, many will get their wish. And I think after the bowl games and all the smoke clears, Florida may get the offensive coordinator that a lot of them are looking for. I don't necessarily think that that'll happen per se, but they may. I think that could happen. So kind of bet on the Florida men's basketball team to be looking good going into the month of March. And in the next couple weeks, they may get their wish as Florida rounds out its coaching staff.
All right, Loren Meadows. Thank you. Merry Christmas. Have a good night. We'll talk to you Thursday.
Go put your jammies on.
Glad you liked that.
I did.
All right, Francis, give us something more to sleep on.
All right. Mike Eads, who is one of my friends, who is the supervisor of basketball officials in the Southeastern Conference, told me unequivocally Florida is one of the 5 best teams in the SEC. Now the SEC's got 8 teams in the net rankings in the top 50. You make the top 50 in the net rankings, you're going to make the NCAA tournament. Florida's currently 46th and rising, and the Gators are going to get Alex Simchek back, which is another 6'10", 250-pound body, 5 more fouls in the post. Basketball is going to be a hot ticket. You better get your tickets now because the Gators are going to win a lot of ball games. They're going to finish up with Quinnipiac. That'll be their 10th win. They get 10 more wins, and you can point them in. A 10-8 season in the SEC this year will get you a number 7 seed or better in the NCAA tournament. Florida's going to get there. Baseball and softball are going to start practicing in 2 weeks, and believe me, the Gators are going to be loaded there. Football, I believe that Billy is going to get an offensive coordinator, and I hope it's going to be Willie Korn. Look at what he did this year. Look at what he did with Grayson McCall at Coastal. Look at what he did this year with the Salter kid, Caden Salter kid at Liberty University. And this guy knows how to run an offense and so forth. Florida's going to score points. The thing about it is we got to hope and pray somehow, some way that that it has permeated through the building and it has gotten into this space between these 2 ears in every single football player that it is legal to tackle. Mm-hmm. It is legal to cover somebody in
and much desired too, by the way.
It is legal to sack the quarterback. I'm just, I realize, buddy, that is wishful thinking on my part. That may be, I realize Christmas was yesterday, but, this is my pre-December 25, 2024 Christmas wish, that these 3 things will come about in Florida football next year. Tackle somebody, sack the quarterback,
cover somebody.
Oh,
there you go. All right, you good stuff as usual. You can read Franz Beard, by the way. I should remember to tell you this. Go to GatorBaitMedia.com and check out the fine stories he writes there many times during the week, and he has good stuff to say about a lot of things you don't know. He does. His insight has been one of the great things about Gator Bait, having him there, his experience and insight. You can't beat a little bit of gray hair once in a while, especially when it comes to your favorite sports writers. Francis, great job. Have a good night. We'll catch you on Thursday, all right?
Yeah, hey, I think you got somebody back there waiting very patiently for you to get back there and maybe have something to drink and something to eat.
Probably clean up the kitchen. All right, Francis, have a good night, brother. Merry Christmas to you again.
Merry Christmas.
All right, I want to tell you folks about our friends over at that make this possible. They've been with us a long time. We so appreciate what their loyalty and what they do for our community. That's Renstar Medical Research. They have a reputation as a high-quality, patient-centered clinical research facility. They bring cutting-edge clinical research trials to account in areas like Alzheimer's, dementia, psoriasis, osteoarthritis, migraines, fibromyalgia, along with many other things that affect us in our residential area and our region. They're just applied to us here in this area we live in. So they want to know more about it. They're doing research all the time. They invite you to be a part of some of these clinical trials. You can find out which ones if you go to the website and go to them, or just go to their page of renstar.net and look at their participation in the upcoming trials. You might qualify. If you do, you could be compensated for your time and travel. Over 700 clinical research trials in Ocala that continue to partner with prominent pharmaceutical and biomedical companies throughout the medical industry. Renstar Medical Research, seeking tomorrow's answers to the health questions of today. Folks, it's been a good night. Hope you had a good holiday. It's going to be a good week. Back tomorrow night with our team. We'll hope to have Allie back with us tomorrow night, and David Moulton, others. Hope you'll join us again. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you for watching. And we appreciate our sponsors and our guests tonight. Good night, folks.